But this is another problem with the whole Trump thing, and everyone was talking about how Trump was going to unify the left. Well, not everyone. Some people were talking about should we burn the house down, unify the left. It's like that. Why would you think that was going to happen? An equally possible scenario was that the left would get really, really afraid of Trump, of the dangers of Trump, and they would fall in line and not criticize their own internal power structure. And that's what we're seeing a lot of now. We're seeing a lot of members of the quote unquote woke ass left kind of fall into line because they're afraid of Trump, and thus that fear, like they don't want to criticize.
Wait a minute. Did they actually? And we all know who they is. Did they actually argue that the so woke neoliberal left was going to fall in line with the progressive left?
After they argued that the left would come together under the umbrella of the progressives because they would be the only ones who'd be able to. Yeah, I was who thought
worse now? That prediction is even worse. Like, I saw
it was always stupid,
insane. That's insane because not only here's the other part of the prediction that was just piss poor backwards is this idea that Donald Trump was ever going to burn down the house. Like, I mean, why did people believe that Donald Trump was going to come in and fundamentally change the system such that it constitutes a burning down of the house? Donald Trump is not an arsonist. He's not a nihilist. He is the system. He's just the excesses, Brandon, if I could borrow your phrase, of the system.
But wait a minute. I think right there, that's what they were talking about when they said burn the house down. The system is going to destroy itself because it's inherently unstable and unsustainable. I think that's the point. He's going to come in, and the excesses of an already unsustainable system would cause like a burning down the house effect. Now, I don't agree with like this unification, but I do agree with is that we're in a time of great change. There's a lot of shifting of things going on. We got realignment of this, changing of that. You know, a lot of new words going on, movements coming up out of nowhere. There's a lot of action going on. What's unclear is what the result of all that action will be because there's too many moving parts. And I think somebody asked me to make a prediction, and that's exactly what I said. I said there's too many moving parts. I mean, there's great potential here, but there's also great danger.
I agree more than ever that the progressive movement needs to part ways with this Democratic. I don't know. A lot of people are like the Democratic Party is going to do that. No, I don't think the Democratic Party is going to do anything at this point. I think we should, at a bare minimum, organize ourselves outside of the Democratic Party such that we are a threat to them. Then they can concede to our demands. But if we're not doing that, then we really are just because neoliberals. They're preparing to have the same type of fail in 2020 as they had in 2016. And if progressives don't have a firm grip on a coalition that stands outside of the Democratic Party, then we're going to fail in 2020 as well. And this is going to play in the perfect hands for people like Donald Trump.
Well, in 2018, right? Midterms, and there's special elections next year, and then midterms 2018. I mean, again, check out the conversation I had last night with Nick Branna of Draft Bernie to former People's Party. Again, it's less about Bernie and more about, building a third party option. I think the conversation, he wrote a piece, like a couple weeks after the election, we put it up yesterday, kind of laying out that argument. And it is that sense that Democratic Party, all the great intentions with the reformists, that maybe there is a possibility, at the state level to do something. But as a whole, the Democratic Party is a cancer. And it just needs to be cut out and done away with. Like,
the Democratic Party is not a cancer. It's just a structure, and it's a structure that
it's a
overwhelms
succubus. It's a succubus. It's a cancer. It's a leech. It's something that's very.
What I'm trying to say, it's a structure that demands certain things from the people who work within it, and if you cannot fulfill those demands, you can't work within it. But those demands are so antithetical to the progressive left that it becomes impossible to play both of those. You can't do both. Like, you simply cannot be progressive with the Democratic Party, because as we've seen this slow erosion of progressive values, or at the very least, we've seen like you must pay lip service, you must enable the elites in the Democratic Party, even though they're responsible for this mess. Like, you still have to enable them. You still have to provide a way out for them, that why they really didn't quote unquote lose to Donald Trump, so that they can feel better about themselves. They can feel as though like their place is still valuable. It's great. It's like Russia and Trump provide the perfect scapegoats for the Democratic elite to stay in power. It wasn't their fault, and you shouldn't, and we can't quote unquote re-legislate the primary because we have a bigger threat now. It's Trump, and that was the same thing.
Here's where it's a little different, right? I think the landscape is slightly different. It could devolve back into being the same shit show that we've had for the last 40 years, whatever. But I think the landscape is a little bit different because Bernie Sanders is still the titular head. No, I love that word. Borrow it from me real quick. Of this progressive movement that people are trying to fight, people are trying to stop, and now David Brock is trying to buy off, or apologize his way back into it. We actually have a movement that was created or that got revived during the 2016 election that actually could change this structure, even in the face of the neoliberals trying to use Donald Trump as an excuse. I think it's slightly different if we are able to capitalize on it. And the problem is, I'm not really sure how well we can capitalize on what's left of this progressive movement that was revitalized. But it's here. I mean, Bernie Sanders is there. He's getting more coverage now than Hillary Clinton will because she's Yeti and she's in the woods hiding and making guest appearances. She's Bigfoot. You know what I mean?
She's a Wendigo.
She's Cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
No, okay, but so here's the question: it's like if the goal is to change Democratic Party, if the goal is to get them to do what the left wants them to do, is it easier to provide pressure is it easier for people on the left, for progressives, to put pressure on them from the outside or from the inside? And that becomes the question, because some people are like, it's easier to work within them and provide and put pressure. And I would say
I hear your question loud and clear, and I have always been one to say let's reform from the inside. I don't have time, nor the energy, nor the desire to fuck with them. So somebody else, if you want to move them from the inside, that's your spot. Go ahead and do that. But only way I think that the progressives can actually we have to leverage it. We have to smash them. We have to make them capitulate to our demands, and we can't do that trying to fix it from within, because they have all their power structures and all their games and all their rules, not even games. They have all their rules and regulations to protect the power structure. So there has to be a both and. Let the people who believe on the inside, let them give it their best shot. But the progressive movement has to be galvanized outside of the Democratic Party.
I agree.
It could be a third party, but if it can't be a third party, it has to be a movement that moves as a block that can knock the Democratic establishment across the head on demand.
I mean, I agree, but I guess my opposition to going within them is twofold. It's that sort of becoming friends with your enemies or your people who aren't in line with you can sort of make it more difficult to hold them accountable, and B, it can be joining the Democratic Party. It at least symbolically, it gives them your power. It gives them your power to vote. Like if you say, well, I'm going to be a Democrat, like if they get to put a one more check mark into their their bursar for the voting, and do I really even symbolically, even if I choose not to vote for them in the next election, do I really want them to have that kind of claim to my vote by saying, hey, you know what, you're a registered Democrat? What's going on here? Right. And it's like, and even obviously that's meaningless, but in some ways childish, but still, it's like, well. I find a lot of their things distasteful, and I find the price of entry too high in certain situations.
I agree.
Yeah, I wonder is like, how can you align with your political opposition in order to get something for you, and they're not negotiating with you in terms of trying to give you something. They're not giving you anything. You're just aligning with them just to align with them for no reason. You're helping them achieve their goals, but you're not getting anything. And it's just like there's supposed to be some sort of transaction, and it's just like they're giving you an IOU and you're paying up front. Well, I mean, that's not right.
I guess that was my point, though. I agree with you. I think that was my point. I think that the same structure that, because when you talk about why we should reform the Democratic Party, people then tend to fall into this pattern of, well, they have that the name recognition, the structure, they have the apparatus to get people to vote. They're an already established party, so it's better and easier than building up a new structure. Is better and easier than developing your own name recognition. But at the same time, I would say it's that exact same structure that makes those demands. And at the same time,
this is why.
The third thing.
Well, go ahead. Give me the third. Go ahead.
The third thing is that Democratic Party are losers. The Democratic Party is at this point, like, they've lost everything, and the victories that they can claim are largely pyrrhic and symbolic. We had a black president, and we had almost woman president, and we don't say the N-word. those are their victories. And
in 30 years.
And they've conditioned they've conditioned the Democratic voting base to accept those. It's like they have these very, very, very low standards for what constitutes victory, and you have a bunch of effete Democratic voters who like are still touting, well, we won the popular vote. Who cares? That's sad. That's even sadder. It's just that you even know how the system works, that you went out of your way. And let's be honest, she went out of her way to increase her popular vote victory without actually trying to worry about the electoral college by advocating in urban centers.
That was all California.
Like, I told somebody
California did that. That was all California. Like California, that was all them little dinners and stuff she did in California, instead of, like you said, making sure she hit the map like she was supposed to.